Homeostasis. Homeostasis is the ability of the body or a cell to seek and maintain a condition of equilibrium or stability within its internal environment when dealing with external changes. It is controlled by feedback loops, demonstrated by this diagram where a variable in homeostasis is imbalanced, and this message is sent to the receptor, then proceeded to the control center. Then the output will then be sent to the effector and finally brings the variable back to a balanced state. My example of a homeostatic system is thermoregulation within a black rhinoceros. Thermoregulation is the ability of an organism to keep its body temperature within certain boundaries, even when the surrounding temperature is very different. Like other mammals, rhinos are endotherms, inferring that they are able to maintain a stable temperature internally. Their bodies are like internal combustion engines, producing heat as they consume and digest food. This metabolic heat warms their innards and then they radiate any excess heat to the surrounding environment in order to maintain a stable internal temperature. Before we go any further, I need to introduce their special living environment. Rhinos live in a wide range of different types of habitats that are mostly exposed to areas with high temperatures such as woodlands, damp forest, montane forest, grasslands, and thick bushes. These rhinos often live in semi-arid places. This puts rhinos in a risk of overheating under the hot tropical sun. And since they lack swag glands that would help them to cool off, therefore they routinely seek out for water or mud to help and get rid of the excess heat. This is called wallowing. By coating its body in cool, wet mud, this not only protects them from pests, but also, most importantly, it helps them to provide a path for internal heat to radiate from its body and evaporate into the thin air. Rhinoceros has their own ways to respond to their environmental temperature change. Wallowing, the process of bathing themselves in mud pools of water, and thus reduce the energy cost of thermoregulatory responses. In case of thermal changes, physiological mechanisms are also enhanced, increasing rates of energy expenditure. This means the increase in metabolism depending on the adjustments in setting temperature at optimum from whether too high or too low. Hence, thermogenesis-induced metabolic costs can be reduced during cold exposure. Negative feedback loop. Thermoregulatory center in the hypothalamus receives inputs from two sets of thermoreceptors. The hypothalamus itself monitors the temperature of the blood as it passes through the brain, and receptors in the skin monitor the external temperature. Both sets of information are needed so that the rhino can make its appropriate adjustments. Well, this is a negative feedback loop of thermoregulation when there is a decrease in temperature. As temperature decreases, it is detected by the hypothalamus and the outer skin cells. This change is then sent by nerves to the voluntary centers of the brain, where voluntary activities such as moving towards warm areas will be stimulated. The brain then let out norepinephrine from sympathetic fibers to constrict the skin blood vessels, which is called vasoconstriction. This function increases pressure in blood vessels, therefore blood can flow less freely, thus more heat will be produced, as it takes more energy to circulate the blood. This is shown by the decrease in diameter in the blood vessels in the diagram where the arrow indicates. Overall, this helps to set temperature back to an optimum. The opposing situation is an increase in temperature that exceeds the optimum of 38.5 degrees. The process is the same to the previous ones, except the brain leads capillaries in the skin to dilate this time. More blood flows in the capillaries from the skin surface, thus heat loss by radiation, as less energy are produced in blood flow. This process of vasodilation ultimately results in setting back the temperature to normal. So, apart from vessel alternation, metabolic processes would also alter along with the system of thermoregulation. In the case of a decrease in temperature, it will be again detected by the hypothalamus. This time, thyrotropin will be released, which is a hormone to activate the anterior pituitary gland located under the hypothalamus to release thyroid-stimulating hormone. This hormone stimulates the thyroid gland, which is also located in the brain, to release sufficient amount of thyroid hormone into the blood. Thyroid hormone increases metabolic rate, which is taking place in the mitochondria in cells. This increases the amount of body heat production. Finally, as the body gets warmer, the hypothalamic senses detects the warmth and diminishing the heat producing and heat loss prevention responses and brings the loop back to the original point. However, body temperature in rhinos are thermolabile, meaning that their body temperature varies slightly during the day as the external temperature changes. Black rhinos' optimum temperature sits around 38.5 degrees Celsius. They have a rectal temperature of between 36 and 39 degrees. And in occasion of cold winter mornings, they may have a temperature that drops to 35.5 to 36 degrees Celsius. When they reach temperatures over 39.5 degrees, they must start cooling down. Some body structures that helps with thermoregulation. Connective tissues are found in their thick skin folds, shown by the image next to the skin fold. The cutaneous muscles that are well developed in the subcutaneous tissues, which have many small blood vessels. Their folded skin acts as a thermoregulator since the thin blood vessels and capillaries and cutaneous muscles in the subcutaneous tissues transmit the thermal energy from the core region of the body to the skin folds. Thermoregulatory mechanism in the folded skin adapts to high temperature and in the tropical and subtropical regions. So here are some adapted advantages of thermoregulation. They can generate their own heat when they are in cool environment, and by cooling themselves when they are in hotter environment. This allows them to occupy and survive in different conditions, which outweighs the external factors. This aids them to survive temperature change that occurs around their habitats, instead of migrating somewhere else to escape unpredicted temperature change. Overall, it saves them time and energy and other possible harms, such as competitors and unsuitable environmental factors. In order to generate heat, rhinos can convert food that they eat into energy to maintain a constant body temperature. So only a small amount of food that a warm-blooded animal eats is converted into body mass, while the rest is used to fuel a constant body temperature. This prevents them from having to build up unnecessary weights which increase pressure for their hearts, although they already have a relatively large body size. By maintaining an optimum temperature, like humans and most of other mammals, rhinos can remain active, as their enzymes will operate efficiently, allowing them to ingest, digest, and absorb with the nutrients they needed. This also allows to provide them sufficient energy to seek for mate, which further leads to relatively more successful reproducing chance. Lastly, allowing metabolism to function for better absorption of food, as thermoregulation sets temperature at a desirable level that favors metabolism to proceed at a faster rate. However, disruptions can also occur. Disruption itself refers to the interruption of the normal biological process that occurs in the body of human and mammals. Internally, disruption of homeostatic in the body system can make an organism susceptible to disease and possibly lead to death. Hormones will be disrupted, resulting in malfunctioning or not functioning at all, since it's directly affected by temperature level. Example of this can be hypothermia. This can happen when rhinos lose their access to multiple or large water resources. This means when heat exceeds the producing amount, affects the organism's brain by reducing oxygen. Thus, the nerve control centers will be affected, meaning less vessel control and undesirable metabolic rate. This would ultimately disrupt the negative feedback loop, as vessels can no longer function as effective to radiate or control heat loss, and thyroid hormones will not be released as much as before, therefore a reduced metabolic rate. The reduced metabolic rate further leads to less energy being made, therefore unable to help with heat production. Externally, this can refer to extreme climate change. And this can lead to thermoregulatory system being disrupted, as the extreme temperature detected can be tolerable to the organism. This signifies that Rhino's molecular functions will be disturbed, therefore thermoregulation cannot be proceeded or take place, as the changes directly affect the brain, where the responsible organ, hypothalamus, and central nervous system are found. Therefore, functions of a hypothalamus, such as releasing hormones, will consequently reduce or not even occur at all. So overall, the system is unable to carry out its process effectively. Here is the bibliography. Thank you for listening.